So for example, if you're focusing on business, finance and fitness, then that still doesn't mean that your family isn't something that's important to you, because it is important to you. It's just not as important at that moment in time as business, finances and fitness. Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you both mentally and physically become the best version of yourself. Today it is just me, myself and I say that, but I've got the team in the background. I've got Mikey and Katie in the background behind me, as always. So again, if you hear little voices in the background, again, it is just those guys. So again, if you're a returning listener, welcome back, you guys. I absolutely love you guys. I've been receiving quite a lot of messages on Instagram recently. Again, you guys just sharing the love from the episode. So again, very, very greatly appreciated. Like I said, I set this podcast up originally just to help people basically not have to go through what I went through, and the podcast is just growing amazingly. And when I get some feedback from you guys, again, it's absolutely incredible. It really does mean the world to me, and I never get bored of hearing from it. So again, really, really greatly appreciated. Again, had a bit of a hectic week this week. Been into a school. It's my last school for the year, and again, it's just amazing to see this information. Also, information I'm passing on to you guys. Again, maybe you are from one of the schools that I went to earlier on. But again, it's just hearing all this information, hearing the teacher say, I wish I knew this when I was in school. And that's the whole point. And again, just really getting this information out there to the masses. It's just absolutely incredible. But today's podcast, again, when it's just me, I just like to share some stuff that I'm going through myself personally, or stuff that's relevant to some of my clients. And on one of the check-ins I had this week, one of my clients spoke about finding balance. And it really, it struck me because it's something that I have really struggled with for quite a long time. And it's only recently that I have actually managed to find balance, because for me, like when I'm involved in something, when I'm kind of all in, and again get like blinker and tunnel vision, and for me that's awesome. But then what that actually leads to is I then lose sight of other things, and then I get frustrated that I've taken my eye off the ball in other areas. So I kind of just want to like dissect and break this down from like my sort of understanding of this. And again, it's so profound that I even bought a little Rubik's Cube to use as an example. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you'll see the video of the Rubik's Cube as well, because again, I kind of use this as an analogy for my client, but I didn't actually have a Rubik's Cube, so I had to specifically go out and buy one. So that's what triggered me to talk about this. And I've taken some notes, and it's a bit bizarre when I go into one of these headspaces. Again, you hear me talk in this headspace where I go into a flow state and I just kind of ramble and just go, and it just kind of flows out. But when I actually get into a writing state like this, it's quite bizarre for me. So this is what I've kind of done for this episode. So I've literally just finished writing the notes I want to talk about for this episode. So it's fresh out of my brain, but then I've kind of looked back on it and I don't really know what I wrote, so it's kind of a bit bizarre really. And I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes when it comes to growing the business, the Prime Life Project. I'm in the process of writing a business plan, and the kind of same thing happened there as well, where I just get into this flow state and I smash out 5 pages business plan. And I read it back and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool what I've wrote there, but it doesn't even seem like it's me that's wrote it. It's very, very bizarre. I can't really explain it. Hopefully you guys do know what I'm talking about, because it means you get into that flow state. And again, I've spoken about that in multiple podcasts before. So like I said, today I want to talk about like just finding balance and what that sort of means, because I learned something once a very, very long time ago, and I've had to sort of remind myself this. And again, I forgot that I knew this. It's funny how we do that, isn't it? Where something comes out of your mouth or you think something, you're like, oh, I forgot I actually knew that. So I kind of just wrote this down. It's the amount of uncertainty that you can handle at any given time is directly related to how happy, productive, and fulfilled you're going to be. And basically, it's all about talking about embracing the mess. Which this is the thing for me, because this specific client, when she spoke about finding balance, she was basically sort of saying that if for whatever reason things aren't perfectly balanced, she feels out of control, and then she doesn't really want to sort of do anything. So she kind of like just feels like she's almost failing at life. And my sort of explanation with this is that like you can't find perfect balance. It's not a real thing. But in this self-development world, you see all this stuff on Instagram all the time. Everyone talks about finding balance, and you've got to find balance to find peace and all this sort of stuff. And for me, I don't really think that finding balance is something that you should be really striving for. Like you want to get the pursuit of it, but to actually attain it, I don't think it's possible. Like you want the pursuit of it, like the pursuit of happiness, because it constantly changes. Like to ever be happy, you can be happy in a moment, but to constantly live your life always happy is impossible. And it would lead to a very unfulfilling, boring life. And same with this when it comes to balance. If you had perfect balance in your life, then for me, it tells you that you're not really trying at anything. You're kind of just being like meh and blasé and just kind of just trying to keep things to a bare minimum, because that's the only way that things can be perfectly balanced at all times. Like if you're actually trying to get better at something, then by definition, things can't be balanced. So again, I've got this Rubik's Cube here. And again, Rubik's Cube's got 6 sides. So these are just 6. This is by no means scientific, so don't quote me out on this. But these just, obviously, it's a Rubik's Cube. It has 6 sides. So basically, each side represents something. So here I've wrote down business, family, finance, fitness, health, and learning. Like education, further education, whatever you want to call it. So these are 6 sides. These are 6 pillars. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to do this on a camera where you can actually see it properly. But at any given time with this Rubik's Cube, like there's only going to be a maximum of 3 sides that you can see. So, for example, if you're focusing on business, finance, and fitness, then that still doesn't mean that your family isn't something that's important to you, because it is important to you. It's just not as important at that moment in time as business, finances, and fitness. But then what happens is, let's say something happens with one of your family members, then the whole thing shifts. And then what happens is you may only be focusing on one area. So then everything's focused on your family because something major has happened in your family. Or your health. So then everything else crumbles and everything then focuses on your health. So you then lose sight of your business, of your finances, of your fitness, of your health, and of your learning. And basically, this constant thing I want to use is this Rubik's Cube analogy, is that everything's constantly turning. And the most balance you're really ever going to find is probably 3 things at once. Because in order for you to succeed in business, let's say for a prime example, as a woman, let's say you're a single mother. You're a single mother and you have to work. If you're a single mother and you have to work, your focus when you're working right there, you can't be the perfect mum all of the time if you're having to work all the hours God sends to try and look after and provide for your family and that kid. Again, you can't do it. Like, it's not possible because there's no such thing as multitasking. Your attention just goes from one thing to the next really, really quickly. But you have to then try and focus as much as you can on the business because you need the business to make the finances to then actually look after your family. If you just focus on your family at that moment in time, you then can't focus on the business, which then means you don't get the finances and all the rest falls to pieces. So it's understanding this. We get frustrated because we want everything to be perfectly balanced. It can't be balanced. If you're trying to actually succeed in business or in anything or in health or in fitness, you have to understand that other areas have to be sacrificed. It doesn't mean you don't care about those areas. It just means that certain things have to give way. If you're trying to save money on your finances, that may mean you then can't spend time with your friends because you can't afford to go out all the time. You can't go on these expensive holidays. If you're trying to pursue learning and business and all these other things, then understand that maybe your health and fitness will take a back seat. I know for me when I was growing the Prime Life Project, originally I did not train for 6 to 8 months. Literally did not set foot in a gym. Bear in mind I was working in a gym. Because all my time, energy, and focus was literally on business and finances. That was it, and learning. Those 3 things, they were the 3 things that were there. Now, that doesn't mean that fitness and health wasn't important to me. It's still there on the Rubik's Cube. But understand, it wasn't there at the forefront of my mind. But then as the business grew, I could then shift that, and then something else became a priority. My fitness started to become a priority. My health started to become a priority. But then it's understanding a big event will happen in your life. Let's say mental health. Mental health come on here. You've got health, maybe mental health. And if mental health is the main thing that you're focusing on, nothing else in your life will matter, including your business. So for me, the stuff that's happened to me over the last 6 months, my Rubik's Cube completely shifted and I was just focusing on my mental health. And then it meant my business was affected. Not intentionally, it doesn't mean I didn't care, but my energy, it had to shift. You can't keep this perfect balance all the time. Maybe 3, but understand that if you're trying to keep this perfect balance with everything, then you're not really trying. You can't be by definition. You can't be giving everything your full attention because you can't be. It's got to be split. There's only so much energy you can give. Says you've got 100 units of energy. 25, 25, 25, 25. Okay, that's 4 units. But you're giving all 4 units 25, which means you're kind of half-assing all of them. Where actually with some of them, if you put 75% into one thing like the business, then cool, then you've got 25% for your family. Awesome. But you can't get that perfect balance. Maybe a 50-50 split between 2 things. Okay. But then again, your family, you're only giving your family 50%. So again, it's really important with this. And the problem is we get addicted into thinking that we control things. And that's what holds us back. We think we can control everything. And we can't. And it's actually that control that we struggle with. So it's that constant pursuit of balance, but it's understanding it's important to try and get that, but you cannot attain this perfect balance because it's not possible. It always ebbs and flows. Everything ebbs and flows. And again, this balance equals boredom. Balance would equal boredom. Just imagine in your life right now, if everything was perfectly balanced. You may be right now, you might be like, oh, that'd be awesome. But then it'd be boring. If every single day, everything was exactly the same. And just think how many variables you are trying to control. Let's just think about how many variables you think you're trying to control. You're not God. Let's just think about this. Let's just use the example again. Business, family, finance, fitness, health, learning. Let's just use those 6 examples. Think how many variables you're trying to control to get perfect balance. So when it comes to a family, let's just say it's you, your husband, your wife, whatever it is, and 1 kid. So that's you, and then you're also trying to control 2 other human beings. It's not just you. You can't control these other 2 variables, but you're trying to because you want perfect balance. So that means that you then somehow have to control these other 2 things which you cannot actually control. So that's just 2 things. Let's look at business. So let's just say you work within an organisation. Let's say you don't even own the company. Let's just say you work on one of the ground level things, which, yeah, nothing wrong with that. So you're then trying to control all the other employees at your level, the management, and then the CEO and everything like that, and then all the investors and the shareholders and the stakeholders, and then the economy. You can't do it. It's impossible. You never know what's going to happen. But yet people get paralyzed, like everything has to be perfect, have to get perfect balance. You can't, because you can't predict what's going to happen. If something happens, prime example, someone that I know, something happened, and basically his daughter ended up breaking his arm. So straight away, his perfect plan for this business that he had, he spent all day trying to do this business thing, and then straight away his daughter's broke his arm. Guess what? He now can't focus on the business. All his energy and attention has to go on his daughter. You can't predict that. You can't get this perfect balance. But it's understanding life ebbs and flows. And once you actually understand that, and actually, again, like I said at the start, get used to this uncertainty. Get used to the fact that life is uncertain. You cannot control everything. The whole point of life is it's constantly changing. That is what life does. Just sit and look at nature. Let's just ignore human beings. Sit and look at nature. Sit in a meadow. Sit in a grass meadow. And you tell me if that picture says exactly the same for more than 5 minutes. It doesn't. Something changes. The grass, by definition, will be growing. The wind may blow. The sun will change position. Everything changes. Yet we somehow think we have the power to control everything. And it's actually our problem. It's our control that we want. It's the control that we want. We think we want balance. We don't want balance. We actually want control. And when we don't have the control, that's what makes us feel out of control. That makes us feel like life's not in balance. I feel like I'm actually on one again already. I've only been going for 11 minutes. I'm like, bloody hell, like I'm absolutely on one. You're sweating, I'm sweating. Because again, with this, like we feel bad again because we need to have balance in your life to be a good person. That's kind of what we're told. Like, we've got to have balance. You've got to find time for these things. You've got to find time for your family. You've got to find time for your friends. You've got to have time for all this. And then, like I said, you're looking at it like, how on earth do I have time to do all these things? Like, how do you have time to actually run a successful business or even just work? How do you have time to then save money and then spend money and then see your friends, see your family members, and then live a peaceful life where you're meditating and walking and looking after your fitness and going to the gym? All of these things, just think about it logically, all these things get pumped down our throat with social media. We can't actually find this perfect balance. But yet social media tells us it's all about balance. It's not. It's the pursuit of balance. You want to be constantly trying to pursue balance, meaning you're constantly paying attention to what's going on and adjusting your course if you've become too unbalanced in one direction. For example, if you know, like I said, use the business example. Let's say you know that you've got to run this business. You're self-employed and you've got a family to provide for. Again, if you've got a partner, awesome, because that means she kind of shares responsibility. Like, you know, right, I'm going to go and earn some money, and then my partner's going to look after the kid. Again, this could be the woman that's going to earn money. I'm not saying it's got to be the male, but whoever it is, someone goes and earns the money, and then someone can potentially spend more time, energy, and effort with the kid. Someone can finish work early to go pick the kid up. Cool, whatever. You then understand, right, for the next 6 to 8 years, I am going all in on this business so that actually I can provide for my child. Now, that's absolutely fine. You've already made that commitment. But it's then understanding if every single time you see your child, you are on your phone, you've got your face on your tablet, on your laptop, or you're constantly doing other things, that is where it's gone too far. That's where it's gone too far. That's where you need to understand, again, to use Mikey's favourite word, nuance. It's understanding here that there's a certain time where, yes, you're going 100% on the business. You know that you've got to work long hours. However, you have to then stop and then find that balance again temporarily to give your time, energy, attention to your child, for however long that may be. Be present in that moment, and then you can go back to doing what you were doing. So again, you see that you're just shifting. You're still going all in on here, and the Rubik's Cube is mainly focused on here, but another surface of the Rubik's Cube is your child, is your family. So it's understanding that if that's important to you, you don't want to allow it so the Rubik's Cube is only on business. You want to understand it's shifted so there's always some time for your child, your energy, your family. And again, stay present in that moment. So when you're working, you're working. When your child's there, when your partner's there, you are then present with them, because that is a problem. We're not present as a society, as a species. And then we've got to read my notes, because I've kind of gone completely off track here. So we should try and evaluate where we are and see if we can improve and make adjustments, but don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up, because this is the thing. It's really easy for us to beat ourselves up. Like, you're trying to do the best you can with the information that you've got. Like, wherever you're at in life right now, I don't believe for a single second, if you're not happy with your life, that you've done it intentionally. So stop beating yourself up. But you need to just stop and evaluate. So I've said to you can't get perfect balance, but you can try and find a good distribution of balance between 3 things potentially. And again, what you do is you just shift your attention between these 3 things. And every now and again, it's going to rotate. But just ask yourself, has your attention just been on one thing? Have you solely focused on one thing so dogmatically that actually you've alienated your friends, you've alienated your family, your finances are an absolute wreck? Because again, you're working, but your finances are an absolute wreck, your health's a wreck, your fitness is a wreck, and you've not done any learning. Because again, I fully believe that learning is a really important thing that we don't do. Like, we go through school, we learn some stuff, then we stop school, and then that's it. We don't do any more from there. And I feel that's a real key thing. For me, I know that if I'm not progressing with my learning, my education, that becomes a bit of an issue for me. This is why I have to read every single day. I have to read because then at least I know no matter how bad the day's got, at least I've got smarter. That's why I read non-fiction books. So for me, there's a few key things here. And the first thing is like, pay attention. In life, just pay attention. Be present to what you're actually doing, because that makes a massive, massive impact. So right now, I'm doing this podcast. I am 100% here. I am in it. I'm not focusing on what I'm going to have for dinner. I'm not focusing on the computer game I've just brought. I'm not focusing on anything else. I'm literally here, 100% all in right now. When I was on the radio last night, I had a banging headache. I wasn't focusing on the banging headache. I was focusing on, right, how can I add value right now in this moment? The problem is we're not actually present. We try and multitask. And as I said, you cannot multitask. Women say, I can multitask. You're not multitasking. What you're doing is you're changing your attention from one thing quickly to another thing, then back to the one thing. You can't focus on two things at the same time. It is impossible. So there's no such thing as multitasking. You think you are, but you really are not. These are people like, I can text and drive at the same time. I promise you that you can't, because that moment when you're looking down and you're texting, your then eyes are not on the road. They can't be. But it's okay. I flick back. Yeah, you flick back, but you're not 100% present. This is why these accidents happen. People think they're multitasking. No, you're not. Your attention can only focus on one thing. It's focusing and then it shifts, and then it shifts back, then it shifts back, then it shifts back, then it shifts back. That's what the problem is. People that multitask don't tend to get a lot of stuff done because they flitter their energy between one task and another task, and they never really go all in on that one task. We all know this to be true. If you're trying to work on a deadline and then you're like, but I've got WhatsApp loaded in the background, or I've got Instagram, or whatever it is, or I'm going to sing along to some songs. Nothing wrong with having music on in the background, but if you're then engrossed in singing on that song, guess what? Your mind's focused on the lyrics of that song, not engaged in what you're writing. We all know when you're in that flow state is when your attention is completely focused on that one thing. Concentration is just focused consciousness. Let me say that again. Concentration is focused consciousness. So what you're doing is you're focusing your conscious brain, and that is what causes concentration. So right there, in that moment, when you're in that flow state, again, it could be when you're in the gym. You know you're in that flow state in the gym because your playlist is playing I'm a Barbie Girl or Venga Boys, and it has been for the last 20 minutes, and you've not even paid attention because you're so engrossed in what you're doing. That's what it means to be present. You're focusing your conscious mind on this one task. Again, say when you've got a deadline. If you've got a deadline and it has to be done, that's when you pull something completely out of nowhere, and you end up writing 25 pages in the space of 30 minutes, but you get it done because you're focusing all your energy. You're not paying attention to anything else, which is why it's important if you're trying to do something, actually be present. If you're with your child, don't be on your phone. If you're trying to work, don't be on your phone. If you're trying to be on your phone, don't try and have a conversation with somebody else. Be present on what you're actually doing. It's really, really key because, again, all you're going to do is just get a little bit of something. Jack of all trades, master of none. Same thing. It's like you either focus your attention on one key thing or it's going to disperse your energy and nothing's really going to get done. So you aren't present and basically you're trying to move so many things forward that nothing really happens. And this is why at the end of the day, your to-do list gets longer and longer and longer and longer because you're trying to do multiple things at once. I'll smash off 5 things on my to-do list at once. Then at the end of the day, you've got 10 things on your to-do list, including the 5 you've already had. Well, how did that happen? Because you didn't actually tick off that one thing that you meant to be doing. You tried to do that one thing, then you got distracted. Do this, do this, do this. And that first thing never actually got done. Focus on that one thing. Again, this is kind of where you get balance from because what you're doing is it's not the balance that you want, it's the control. And you feel out of control because you're dispersing your energy too much and you feel out of control. It's all about time management. You aren't too busy, you just aren't really where you're meant to be. So again, you aren't too busy, you just aren't really where you are. You aren't really here. You're not too busy, your mind's just wandering elsewhere. If I'm talking right now I'm talking to this microphone, I'm on this podcast, I'm talking, but my mind is thinking about what I'm going to do over the weekend. Am I actually here? No. My physical body's here, and words are coming out my mouth, but my mind is elsewhere, meaning I'm not really here. And then what happens is we get so inside of our own head thinking about these other things, that before we know it, when you're in this present, quote-unquote, present moment, 30 minutes has gone by. And you think, I'm so busy. So you're not busy, you're just not actually present doing what you need to do. Because you're being very, very reactive. I talk about this all the time with my clients. Take control of the morning and take control of the evening, and rest of the day will take care of itself. This is one of the key things people don't do. People want control, yet they start their day in a complete reactive mode. You need to be proactive. You need to take control of your first 30 minutes and your last 30 minutes of the day. Because most people don't wake up with any sort of balance. They wake up, the first thing they do is they look at their phone and then they react to the news, or they react to the Instagram message they got, or they react to an email that got sent, from work. That's what they react to. They're very, very reactive. Then straight away, they spend the next 30 minutes going down this rabbit hole of all these things. And then before they know it, they're going to be late for work. And then straight away, you're reactive, oh, I'm too busy. No. Just focus. Wake up. What can you do to what I call it, putting on your suit of armor. So you wake up, put on your suit of armor. What am I going to focus on today? What are my intentions for today? What am I going to do right now? Again, for me, I've spoken about this before multiple times about my morning routine. Cold showers. I take a cold shower, I read and have a cup of coffee. If I can, I meditate, even just for 5 minutes. That is what I do. My normal order is cold shower, meditate, and then drive to work, and then have a cup of coffee and I read. That's me. Bam, done. That is me putting on my suit of armor to show up in a state where I'm ready to take on whatever hits me. But I've then got my intention, I've got my board. Here's 5 things I'm going to do today. Bam, that's it. I do my 5 things. I do my 5 tasks. I do the 5 tasks to push me forward, and then I can do what else I want to do. But most people just want this balance. So they don't want balance, they just want control. Most people just want control, and they feel very, very out of control because they're giving themselves 1,000,001 things to do, but they're not actually present, and they're not actually focusing on what's going on. You have to be conscious about what you want to do with your day, what intentions you're setting. And then in the evening, again, you're doing the same sort of thing. Last 30 minutes of the day, before you go to bed, you're setting your intentions for the next day. You're breaking it down. Again, you're reacting. You're reflecting. How has today gone? And then you realise you've not spoke to your kid all day. Oh, man. Or you've neglected your boyfriend or your girlfriend. You're like, oh, man. Or you've realised you've got 51 emails, work emails to reply to that you haven't really done because you're focusing on this one task that you never really got done because you're doing 1,000,001 other things. Damn, okay, right. Tomorrow I'm going to do a little bit better with that. I'm going to find that little bit of balance. Now, with this, it can be even a thing that's really, really helped me with this. Is in my calendar, I actually chunk out certain slots to do certain things. So if I know I've got stuff to do for the day that's really important, I'll chunk it out of my calendar and I'll just focus on that. So for example, over the weekend, I've got a presentation to do. So it's like, cool, I know on Sunday, I've got this presentation to do. Bam. So I've booked out 2 hours to get that done. In that 2 hours, I'm doing that presentation. That's it. Done. Move it on. So again, it's just important. Just try and, again, as much as you can, time manage. Even if you have to schedule in your family time. And this can sound really, really bizarre. But if you're so busy working, schedule in an hour or an hour and a half to just be present with your family. Leave your phone in the car. So if you come back from work, just leave your phone in the car or leave your phone in the office. And then when your kid comes back from school, just pay attention to the kid for the next hour. Cool. That means you're present. That means you're making a very distinct thing, because what ends up happening is you're really half-assing it. You're not really when you're there on your phone and the kid's there and you're trying to work at the same time. You know the quality of that work isn't going to be really, really good. You know that because you're not present in what's going on. You're kind of like flitting around. So just do what you need to do. Leave your phone in the office. Go and pay attention to your kid. When your kid's in bed, go back, smash out another hour of work, and that hour of work will be a lot more productive. The problem is we aren't productive at all. This thing for me, with my list of things that I do, sometimes I can get so much done in the space of 3-4 hours that most people won't get done in a day. And I've only recently got back to doing this because my attention was elsewhere. I wasn't being the best version of me. All this stuff that happened recently had knocked me massively off course. It's only when I had that real honest conversation with myself that I realised I am the problem and I am doing this. I am letting things happen to me and I'm not taking control. So just remember the Rubik's Cube analogy. Honestly, you can see it now sat there in the background on the bookshelf behind me now. You're going to see it there and you're going to think about it all the time. Just ask yourself, what's the main sort of focus? You can't find perfect balance. You can't see all 6 sides at the same time. So just focus on the 3 sides that you can see and understand, just like the seasons of the year, like there is seasons where certain things have to be at the forefront. For example, around Christmas time, your family and your friends will take a priority. Your work may not. So understand it's absolutely fine. It's a natural order of the world. Everything ebbs and flows. There will never be perfect balance. If there's perfect balance, you're going to lead a very, very boring life. And again, to go back to the quote said at the start, the amount of uncertainty that you can handle at any given time is directly related to how happy, productive, and fulfilled you're going to be. Just embrace the mess. Understand life is never going to be perfect. It will be messy. That is what life is. Embrace the mess. Love you guys. See you guys next time.